Today, we're diving into alternative addiction recovery programs. In our last 2 episodes, we talked about what addiction really is and took a deep dive into 12-step programs, which have helped so many people. But we know recovery isn't a one-size-fits-all, so today we're exploring other paths to healing. From science-based recovery programs like Smart Recovery to mindfulness approaches like Refuge Recovery, and even therapy-based options, there's something out there for everyone. Whether you've tried a program before or this is your first time considering one, I want to start by congratulating you. Just having the willingness to explore recovery options and take control of your life is a huge step, and that's worth celebrating. If you've ever felt like the traditional 12-step approach wasn't the right fit for you, or you're just curious about what else is out there, this episode is for you. Welcome to the Codependent Doctor, a weekly podcast focusing on all things codependency. Are you struggling to love yourself, feeling burnt out, or having trouble forming loving and meaningful relationships? I can help you heal from the past and move forward with healthier selves, healthier relationships, and healthier, more fulfilling lives. Join me as we reclaim your authentic self. I'm your host, a family doctor and fellow codependent, Dr. Angela Downey. We can do this together. Here we go. Hello to all my wonderful podcast listeners, and welcome to the 31st episode of the Codependent Doctor. I'm your host, Dr. Angela Downey, a family doctor and fellow codependent. Today's episode is going to focus on recovery programs other than the 12-step programs. Addiction can turn lives upside down, not just for the person struggling, but for their loved ones as well. They can strain relationships, create chaos at home, and leave everyone feeling hurt and disconnected. Breaking free from addictive habit is incredibly hard. It's not just about willpower. It's a battle that often feels impossible to face alone, which is why finding the right support group is so important. Recovery is a journey, and having people or programs to guide you can make all the difference. I'm personally most familiar with 12-step programs because I've worked through the steps in Codependence Anonymous, which has been a big part of my own growth and healing journey. However, I have a close family member, let's call her Jane, who's struggled with addictions and has explored several different recovery programs, including the 12 Steps, Smart Recovery, and most recently, Dharma Recovery. Jane's journey hasn't been without its challenges, including some relapses, but her commitment to helping herself and striving for a healthier, happier life has always been inspiring to me. She's continuously made efforts to regain control over her life, even when the road has been really tough. Much of what I know about Smart Recovery and Refuge Recovery and Dharma Recovery comes from her experiences, and I'm so grateful for her insights and openness as I prepared this episode. Her willingness to explore different paths to recovery has shown me just how important it is to find the approach that works best for you. Recovery looks different for everyone, and Jane's journey has been a powerful reminder that what matters most is the effort to keep moving forward. So what is Smart Recovery? SMART stands for Self-Management and Recovery Training. This program is a great fit for people who want a practical, science-backed approach to recovery. It's all about learning tools and strategies to take control of your life without relying on a spiritual or religious framework. For some, the idea of focusing on a higher power, like we see in the 12-step programs, just doesn't resonate for them, and that's totally okay. Smart Recovery skips the spiritual elements and zeroes in on actionable steps that you can take to manage cravings, handle triggers, and build healthier habits. Another reason that people are drawn to Smart is the way that the meetings work. They're less about sharing your personal story and more about discussing solutions and strategies. For someone who doesn't feel comfortable opening up in a traditional group setting, this can feel like a refreshing change. It's practical, to the point, and it focuses on forward progress. At its core, Smart Recovery is about empowering you to take charge of your own recovery journey. If you're looking for a program that gives you tools you can use in everyday life and doesn't require any specific beliefs, Smart might be exactly what you're looking for. It focuses on 4 key areas to help people take control of their lives and move forward in recovery, and we're going to have a more in-depth look at each. Building and maintaining motivation to change. This is the foundation of recovery. finding and keeping the drive to stick with it, even when it's tough. Smart Recovery helps you identify why you want to make these changes, and it reminds you of those reasons when things get really hard. For example, you might list your motivators, either wanting to repair relationships, feel healthier, or achieve career goals. Then Smart Recovery encourages you to revisit those reasons regularly, especially during moments of doubt. It's like having a mental checklist of all the things that you're working towards to keep you focused and inspired. Coping with urges and cravings. Let's face it, cravings are gonna happen, and they can feel really overwhelming when they come. Smart Recovery teaches you strategies to deal with those moments without giving in. There's techniques like urge surfing, where you write out a craving like it's a wave, knowing that it's eventually going to pass. Or identifying triggers and avoiding them can be a game changer. For instance, if you know Friday nights at your favorite bar are a major trigger, Smart helps you plan ahead. So maybe you schedule something else during that time, like a movie night or a workout to distract yourself. It's about having a toolkit ready for when cravings hit. Managing thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. Addiction often comes with unhelpful thought patterns like self-doubt or blaming others. Smart Recovery helps you recognize and challenge these thoughts so they don't take control over you. It's rooted in cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT for short, which focuses on how your thoughts affect your actions. So as an example, if you catch yourself thinking, I've already messed up, so why bother trying? Smart helps you reframe it into something more constructive, like, I had a slip, but that doesn't erase all the progress I've made so far. It's about turning negative spirals into opportunities for growth, living a balanced, healthy, and fulfilling life. Recovery isn't just about stopping a behavior. It's about building a life that feels meaningful and rewarding to you. Smart Recovery encourages you to focus on areas like relationships, hobbies, careers, goals, and physical health to create a sense of balance and purpose. For instance, someone in recovery might realize that they've lost touch with hobbies that they used to love, like painting or hiking. Smart helps you rediscover those activities and build them back into your life. The idea is to fill your days with positive things that keep you moving forward and enjoying life. Together, these 4 areas create a comprehensive approach to recovery. Smart Recovery isn't just about stopping addictive behaviors. It's about building a life that you're excited to wake up to every day. In this program, they will teach you practical skills that you can use every day to handle triggers and cravings. It's not about vague advice. It's about giving you specific tools to tackle challenges head on. For example, one key skill is identifying and challenging unhelpful thoughts. If you find yourself thinking, I can't handle this stress without drinking, Smart helps you pause and ask, is that really true? What else could I do to cope? It's about breaking those automatic negative patterns and replacing them with healthier options. Problem solving is another big focus of theirs. Let's say a certain coworker always gets on your nerves and your usual response has been to cope with a drink after work. Smart helps you think through the situation and create a plan, like setting boundaries or venting to a friend, instead of falling back into old habits. Creating action plans is also huge. For instance, if you know Friday nights are a tough time for cravings, you might plan something in advance, like going to a movie, calling a supportive friend, or prepping a favorite meal. These plans help you stay in control and feel prepared even when cravings hit. When my relative Jane was creating action plans, she realized that Friday nights were particularly hard for her. She would often spend the night drinking, and then she was unable to do anything on Saturday because she was recovering. To help with this, we would often make alternate plans on Friday nights, or maybe make plans to go to the dog park on Saturday mornings. She wouldn't drink on Friday night because she knew she had plans the next morning. It's about finding what works right for you. Smart Recovery meetings are super flexible, and they focus on open discussions where everyone has a chance to share their progress, their challenges, and their strategies. Unlike 12-step meetings, there's no structured format or specific steps to follow. Instead, the conversations are centered around practical solutions, what's working, what's not, and how to move forward. It's all about learning from each other and finding tools that fit your unique journey. For example, someone might share a tip that's helped them handle cravings, like maybe journaling, using a breathing technique, and you can take that idea and try it out yourself. Or you might talk about a tough situation, like dealing with a stressful family gathering, and get advice from others who've been in your shoes before. What's great is that SMART meetings can be attended in person or online, so you can choose what works best for you. I would also like to say that 12-step meetings have also moved into an online version if that's something that you're interested in. If you like the connection of face-to-face discussions, in-person meetings are great too. But if you're busy or if you live in a remote area or just prefer the convenience, online meetings are an awesome option. This flexibility makes it easier to stay consistent and get support no matter what your schedule or your location is. One thing that really sets SMART Recovery apart is its approach to labels, or more accurately, the lack of them. Unlike 12-step programs where terms like addict or alcoholic are commonly used, SMART Recovery doesn't ask participants to identify themselves in any particular way. Instead, the focus is on the behavior that you're wanting to change, not on labeling your identity. This can feel really freeing and empowering for some people. For example, instead of saying, "I'm an addict," you might simply say, "I'm working on changing my drinking habits," or "I'm learning to cope with stress in healthier ways." It shifts the focus from being defined by your struggles to taking control and moving forward. For many, this approach feels more positive and less stigmatizing. It's about recognizing that your addiction doesn't define who you are. It's just something that you're working on. By focusing on the behavior rather than the label, SMART encourages participants to see themselves as capable, resilient, and ready to grow. It's all about progress, not a permanent identity. Another great thing about SMART is how flexible it is. It's designed to help with all kinds of addictions, whether they involve substances like alcohol, drugs, or behaviors like gambling, overeating, and even internet addiction. Whatever you're dealing with, SMART provides tools and strategies that can be tailored to your specific situation. And this flexibility makes SMART accessible to a wide range of people. Whether you're dealing with something that's physically addictive, like nicotine, or behavior that's become a compulsive habit, SMART focuses on the underlying patterns and helps you create practical solutions. It's all about meeting you where you are and giving you the tools to make meaningful changes in your life. Hey there, I'm taking a quick break to share something that I think you'll love. I love to read, but if I'm being honest, I love audiobooks even more. And since I often get asked for book recommendations on codependency and recovery, I decided to put together an easy-to-read PDF with some of my top picks. You can grab the reading list by clicking on the link in the show notes. Plus, when you sign up, you'll also get my newsletter, which is packed with valuable resources for your recovery journey. If you're not into the reading list, but you still want the newsletter, then there's no problem. There's a link for that too. I hope you find some great reads in there. Now, let's get back to the episode. SMART Recovery is a global program with meetings available in over 35 countries. It offers support to individuals seeking recovery from many addictive behaviors. You can go to smartrecovery.org for additional information like meetings, resources, toolkits, and podcasts. Next, I'm going to talk to you about Refuge Recovery. Refuge Recovery is a mindfulness-based program that takes a Buddhist approach to healing from addiction. Instead of relying on a higher power like in 12-step programs, it focuses on self-awareness, meditation, and personal responsibility. The idea is that addiction causes suffering, but by learning to sit with our emotions instead of running from them, we can break free from unhealthy patterns. If you've ever felt like you use substances, behaviors, or even relationships to escape uncomfortable emotions, Refuge Recovery offers a new way to deal with them through mindfulness, self-compassion, and healing practices. Dharma Recovery is very similar to Refuge Recovery in that both offer mindfulness-based approaches that can help you break free from addiction and live with a more balanced, fulfilling life. But Dharma Recovery offers a more self-guided, peer-led, and flexible recovery program than Refuge Recovery does. But this is how it works. Refuge Recovery is based on the 4 noble truths. First one being addiction causes suffering. It creates pain, not just for you, but for the people around you. 2, craving and attachment fuel addiction. Whether it's substances, control, validation, or distractions, we often turn to external things to avoid discomfort. 3, recovery is possible. You don't have to stay stuck. There's a way to heal. And 4, The path to recovery requires action. Through mindfulness, meditation, and ethical living, you can create real, lasting change. The first belief is that addiction is a source of suffering, not just for the person struggling with it, but also for those around them. The program teaches that all forms of addiction, whether to substances, behaviors, or relationships, they create suffering by keeping people trapped in cycles or cravings, avoidance, and emotional pain. And understanding this suffering is the first step towards healing. Refuge Recovery also sees addiction as a form of self-medication from pain, trauma, and unresolved emotions. It recognizes that addiction isn't just about substances or behaviors. It's about trying to escape suffering in an unhealthy way. Instead of seeing addiction as just a bad habit or a lack of willpower, it recognizes that people turn to substances, behaviors, or relationships as a way to numb pain, to escape discomfort, or to fill a void. The program emphasizes that true healing requires addressing the root cause of that suffering, not just stopping the addictive behavior. Addiction isn't just about drinking too much, using drugs, or engaging in certain behaviors. It's about trying to escape pain in unhealthy ways. Refuge Recovery understands that addiction is often a form of self-medication as a way to numb difficult emotions or past traumas. Many people struggling with addictions aren't just chasing a high or engaging in bad habits. They're trying to cope with the deep emotional wounds. Maybe they experienced neglect or abuse as a child. Maybe they've dealt with the extreme pressure to be perfect or never learned how to process difficult emotions in a healthy way. The addiction becomes a way to avoid facing those painful feelings. For example, a person who drinks excessively might not be addicted to alcohol itself, but to the relief that it brings from loneliness or anxiety. Someone who gambles compulsively might not be addicted to gambling, but to the distraction that it provides from feelings of inadequacy. A chronic people pleaser might not realize their need to constantly help others is just a way to avoid dealing with their own self-worth issues. The problem is that the relief from addiction is temporary, but the pain that it causes is very long-lasting. Over time, addiction can damage relationships, hurt careers, and lead to serious physical and mental health issues. The very thing that was supposed to bring relief ends up creating even more suffering. Instead of focusing only on stopping the addiction itself, Refuge Recovery helps people understand why they turn to addiction in the first place. By using mindfulness and self-reflection, people learn to sit with their emotions rather than to escape them. And this allows them to process their pain in a healthier way, so they no longer need addiction as a coping mechanism. Healing from addiction isn't just about quitting a behavior. It's about addressing the suffering underneath and learning new ways to find peace. The second core belief is the root of addiction is craving and attachment. According to Buddhist philosophy, suffering comes from clinging, craving, and attachment. And addiction is an extreme version of this. It's not just about substances like alcohol or drugs. Addiction can also show up as craving validation, craving control or approval, and even craving relationships. At its core, addiction is a way of seeking comfort or to escape from uncomfortable feelings. Think about it like this. When you feel anxious, lonely, or overwhelmed, your brain searches for relief. That relief might come in the form of drinking, using drugs, scrolling endlessly on your phone, overworking, or constantly seeking approval from others. These things might temporarily make you feel better, but the relief doesn't last. And over time, you need more and more of it to get the same effect, which keeps you stuck in an unhealthy cycle. For example, if you rely on alcohol to numb stress, you might keep drinking more to maintain that relief. If you seek validation from others, you might constantly try to please other people or avoid conflict just to feel worthy. If you crave control, you might try to manage every detail of your life or others' lives to avoid uncertainty. The problem is the more that we cling to these things for comfort, the more power they have over us. And instead of solving the pain we're trying to escape, we end up creating more suffering for ourselves. Refuge Recovery teaches us that instead of avoiding or numbing pain, we need to face it, understand it, and learn to let it go. Through mindfulness and meditation, you learn to sit with your emotions instead of reacting to them. Over time, this helps to break the cycle of craving and attachment, making it easier to handle life's challenges without turning to addiction. Healing doesn't mean that you'll never experience cravings or difficult emotions again, but it does mean that you'll have the tools to respond differently, so you're no longer controlled by them. That's the real path to freedom. The third core belief is recovery is possible. You don't have to stay stuck. If you're struggling with addiction, unhealthy patterns, or codependency, it might feel like you'll never break free. Maybe you've tried to change before and ended up right back where you started. Or maybe you feel like this is just who you are and that there's no way out. But the truth is, recovery is possible. You don't have to stay stuck in the same painful cycle forever. Healing doesn't mean flipping a switch and suddenly being fixed. It's a process, not a one-time event. Some days are going to feel easier than others, but every step forward, no matter how small it is progress. Recovery isn't about being perfect. It's about learning. It's about growing and finding a way to live with more peace, balance, and self-compassion. No matter how stuck you feel right now, change is possible, and you deserve healing, and you're capable of it. The fourth core belief is that recovery requires action. Healing doesn't happen by itself. Wishing for a change isn't enough. You have to take real steps to make it happen. Recovery isn't just about stopping an addiction or an unhealthy behavior. It's about learning new ways to live and to handle emotions so you don't fall back into old patterns. Different actions can include things like practicing mindfulness and learning to be present in the moment. It helps you recognize cravings, emotions, and triggers without reacting to them. Instead of running from discomfort, you learn to sit with it and let it pass. Use meditation as a tool. Meditation isn't just about sitting quietly. It's a way to train your mind to slow down a little, observe your thoughts, and to break free from automatic reactions that lead to unhealthy choices. Live ethically and with intention. Recovery is about more than just quitting a habit. It's about creating a life that feels fulfilling, honest, and balanced. That means making choices that align with your values, whether that's setting boundaries, treating yourself and others with kindness, or committing to personal growth. You can read about recovery all day, but nothing changes until you start putting these tools into practice. Recovery isn't about perfection, it's about progress. Small steps, done consistently, will create a big impact. Some of the key practices in Refuge Recovery include meditations. These are regular mindfulness practices that help you sit with difficult emotions instead of numbing them. Attending meetings. These are structured, almost like 12-step meetings, but readings from the Refuge Recovery book. It's called A Buddhist Path to Recovering from Addiction by Noah Levine. There is lots of self-reflection. This encourages honesty, accountability, and developing a deeper understanding of your personal suffering. There's compassion and forgiveness. This focuses on healing through loving kindness rather than shame or guilt. Refuge Recovery offers a different approach to healing from addiction. And unlike traditional 12-step programs, it doesn't require you to believe in a higher power or surrender your will. Instead, it focuses on self-awareness, personal responsibility, and mindfulness as tools for lasting recovery. If the idea of surrendering to a higher power doesn't resonate with you, Refuge Recovery offers an alternative. Instead of looking outside of yourself for strength, this program teaches you that you already have the power to heal within you. Through self-reflection and mindful awareness, you learn how to break free from unhealthy patterns and take ownership of your recovery. A big part of Refuge Recovery is learning how to observe your thoughts, emotions, and cravings without reacting to them. Many people struggling with addiction feel controlled by their impulses, but mindfulness and meditation will help slow things down a little. Over time, you develop the ability to recognize triggers, sit with the discomfort, and make healthier choices. Instead of numbing the pain, mindfulness helps you face it, process it, and move forward in a healthier way. Also, it's not just for people dealing with substance abuse, it's designed for anyone struggling with any kind of addiction, whether that's unhealthy coping mechanisms or emotional distress. Whether you're recovering from alcohol, drugs, food addiction, gambling, codependency, or just feel stuck in self-destructive patterns, this program can provide tools to help you regain that control. It's also welcoming to people from all backgrounds, all belief systems, and all life experiences. There's no one right way to recover. It's just the path that works for you. If a 12-step program, Smart Recovery, or Refuge Recovery doesn't feel like the right fit, that's okay. There's many other recovery options out there. Every person is different, so finding the approach that works best for you is key. So I'm going to go through a couple of other programs that people overcome addictions with. One being therapy, individual and group counseling. It's one of the most effective ways to work through addiction. A therapist helps you identify the root causes of your addiction, develop coping skills, and creates healthier thought patterns. LifeRing Secular Recovery. This is a non-religious peer support program that encourages self-empowerment. LifeRing focuses on strengthening the sober self rather than relying on a higher power. Meetings are discussion-based and emphasize personal responsibility and practical strategies for staying sober. Women for Sobriety, or WFS. It's a program designed specifically for women dealing with addiction. It focuses on self-esteem, emotional growth, and building a strong, positive mindset. The program includes affirmations, peer support, and personal growth strategies to help women overcome addictions. Celebrate Recovery is a Christian-based recovery program that combines faith, community support, and step-based healing. It's not just for substance addiction. It also helps people with struggles like codependency, eating disorders, and other unhealthy behaviors. Recovery Dharma, a Buddhist-inspired program, it's very similar to Refuge Recovery, but with a slightly different structure. It uses meditation, self-reflection, and Buddhist teachings to help people recover from substance and behavioral addictions. Medication-assisted treatment models, MAT. Some people benefit from medications that help reduce cravings and withdrawal symptoms while they work on their recovery. MAT is often used for opioid and alcohol addiction, and it's most effective when combined with therapy and support groups. Harm reduction programs. Not everyone is ready for complete abstinence, and harm reduction programs focus on reducing the negative consequences of addiction. This might include things like needle exchange programs, supervised injection sites, or medication to manage cravings. The goal is to improve health and safety while working towards long-term recovery. There is no one-size-fits-all approach to recovery. Some people thrive in a structured group program, while others prefer private therapy or a self-guided approach. The most important thing is to find what works for you and to keep moving forward. Recovery is a journey, and you don't have to do it alone. I wish you all a great week as you learn to foster a better relationship with the most important person in your life, yourself. I will meet you here next week for another episode of the Codependent Doctor, when I'm going to talk about being in a relationship with someone who has addictions and where you can find support. Take care for now. Thank you for joining me, and I hope today's podcast resonated with you. Click like and subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes and to help others who might benefit. This podcast is not meant to provide medical advice and should not replace seeing your doctor for mental health concerns. If you're having a mental health crisis, please present to a hospital, call 911 or your local crisis helpline. I'll talk to you next week for another episode of the Codependent Doctor. We can do this together.